Ahmed Hathn, or Ameen Al-Zayyat. Poetry by Ahmed Hassan Abu Elias. A boy. And a memory barefoot. Tasting the soil of our village. That never forgot how my poetry felt its touch. A cup of play, its sugar was due. Oh, its taste. Oh, the flavor of its coffee. That if the skin of a farmer's son like mine tasted it, it sanctified it. And a teacher. I mimicked his tone and his stance by the window. He called me. I ran like any child unaware of the meaning behind the little ones of our alley. Wearing heavy shoes, socks, or their satisfaction when their relatives dressed them in such garments. But they said it was the uniform of the pupils. The room of fools, which was called the room of dullards, and the big building over there called the madhouse. But the one whose tone and stance I mimicked was my teacher. And a toothless man in my alley used to say, "Teacher Ameen." Don't ask me who he was. I was only a child addicted to feeling the soil with bare feet. His cafe was a spacious courtyard the size of my grandfather's field. My coffee? A cup of play. And the dew was the sugar of morning stirred in the cups of years. I remember the sips taken barefoot from the grass dish, with its rustic flavor. Some would call it ignorant of its magic mud. I mimicked the teacher, he called me. And my fear. My heart sent it to my legs in a swift blood dispatch. And my feet obeyed. They ran. For orphanhood had imprinted my hungry belly with the taste of escape. And my back bore the sting of a whip, its echo resounding in every vein of mine. I ran northward. Or perhaps it was my right. I could not distinguish my left from my right. Once, I did not run. He surprised me with a hand over my hair, like one that caresses orphans. His smile mirrored my grandfather's face on the day of the cotton harvest. A replica of affection. His eyes were two mothers. Love was the east of his word. His voice, its son. And his silence? A generous moon in the whiteness of kindness, his gaze was tender. He held my hand. As any father returning from Iraq might? My little hand, like a dove's chick, resting in his hand. The traveler lands after a journey, tormented by the elders' cries of anguish. A tower, elegant in hue, welcoming his orphan bird post-battle, was how his hands appeared. And the one wounded by orphanhood recalls longing. In the pure whiteness of my grandfather's robe, a treasure filling his wardrobe, with the coral of the dreams of the child grandson, the ruby of playful tastes cradled fondly, and the pearls of memories of the departed. Oh, grandmother, who used to kiss him, and take me to my grandfather's grave, to touch it and pray, while my smiles echoed back her amen. In his elegant tower-like hand, the chick my hand grows to the horizon's age. A dove laying moons the size of my heart, in the nests of my blood, whose twigs are the veins of longing, and the grief arteries of a maddened body. Now, the eggs of those moons crack, their luminous shells reveal my heart emerging, its face resembling a farmer's son traveling to Iraq, followed by a heap of children, and my dove chants my letter sounds on the trees of my heart's orphanhood. My pulse becomes the fruit surrounding her, and my veins, branches. And I sat in his chair in the classroom. Well, you playful boy, tell me, who are you? Ahmed Hathn. May God make your mother proud, teacher. Can I go home to my mom? And I wept. He wiped away 2 drops from tomorrow's deprivation in my eyes, and played with me, giving me a shilling. A month passed. I used to run away from our village barber, for my mother had told me he ate the neighbor's little son with his belly. Gulp, gulp. As our donkey devoured the straw, fodder, or the binding. His belly grew enormous with dread, charging like a camel's stomach. When the little boy cried like a foolish girl, from the pain of a haircut, but I cried with all the orphanhood and poverty within me. When my hair flew away, like butterflies or birds we used to scare, by shaking branches, raising voices from the depths of a child's larynx, full of foolishness. It wasn't the child's fear of the scissors biting. I sat terrified. For the first time, afraid the scissors would shear the cloud of my teacher Ameen's grace from my hair. Strangely, I felt his hand on my scalp, and his motherly smile, and his compassion, which in an age of disbelief in orphans, was a faith. And I laughed like a son when he wiped away 2 drops from tomorrow's deprivation in my eyes, and played with me, giving me a shilling. Since that month, it's still in my pocket, tasting of candy, my grandmother's sweetened rice with potatoes and chicken, and my grandfather's embrace when he prayed, and slept, and walked, in his contentment with me, after the paid-for-ear pinch, seasoned with warmth. The barber said, gathering his towel, "For the first time, you didn't cry." I ran laughing to the door, eager for the taste of the streets. In my mouth, the sweetness of my name's letters, like the most precious gum since the day he said, Ahmed Hathn. And a toothless man in my alley says, the teacher walks from here. The games condense the energy of their field. Into my stance a withered trunk, alone, here. And the friends, my streets. I abandoned them, waiting on the hope of here. A beggar for his smile, which has become my bread. Who will tell him that a young boy has become a beggar here, feeding on the hunger of dreams? A month passes, after a year. My need has taught me, and I've grown into a great beggar. While he traveled to Iraq, and the friends, my streets, do not accept a child unless he offers his whole heart to play. They consider his laughter hypocrisy. But I never deceived them. I played with all the remnants of a heart inside me. Its complaints detonated a bomb of separation. Years pass. He returns. I show him my face. But he doesn't recognize me. He travels again. He returned one last time. In a fateful meeting like the striking of a pulse. In the heart of someone deprived of goodbyes. And the reason? Death. Or did he disappear? He vanished. And suddenly, he comes in his clumsy haste to attend my funeral. He walks ahead of me. As they open the grave, it was the child's final chance to see him. But they buried him in a grave, perhaps covered by the whiteness of his smile and my grief. They closed one last door behind him. Days pass. I visit the grave, knocking on its back wall. But Teacher Ameen did not open for me. I reminded him of myself, of his smile, of the umbrella of his hand over my head, or its fatherly tissue wiping my tears. I thanked him for the taste of his candy, which was in that tender shilling. My mother washed it with my clothes without knowing. Forgive me. And I spent the night crying. But you wiped away the 2 drops of shy blood in my eyes, and played with me with your approval, saying, "Oh, playful boy, my son, you are worth it." I reminded him of the other time, when I showed him my face. He didn't recognize me, and he traveled. That day, I reproached him, then excused him, for the child had grown into a university boy, with a beard sharp enough to prick the hand of a girl who might touch it. I recited to him verses from the Quran. I thought he would like hearing my voice now. By the cemetery, while the family was too busy to notice him, I visit him. How much he needed the company of his son. And I, with my heart, am his son, how small a son I am. Or maybe I needed to repay the kindness of his smile. For a boy, long orphaned, who had been taught begging in a time that shamed him for it. I took his new memory to the mosques. I fasted, and in my prayer of need, I never forgot him, so that I might remember him. I spoke to him. I spoke. He spoke to me. Silence spoke to me too. And the loneliness of his grave, arrogant in its desolation. I said my farewell and left. He visited me in my dreams. He walked with me to the graves. I woke up, and my heart interpreted it. I returned to recite to him, with my voice, whatever longing desired from the chapters of the Quran. I prayed, I fasted. I slept and saw him. The grave emitted light, becoming an umbrella of forgiveness. I said, "Peace be upon you." I felt as though I had repaid the kindness of your smile. Now, the shilling is mine. and I wrote above the grave my signature to him. Ahmed Hathn.